On that day, I thought my wife would be thrilled to hear my story. But she clearly stated, "Going together is impossible." Since we started living separately, she has become more lively. She even wears clothes I've never seen before in front of me. I couldn't help but start suspecting her actions, and eventually, I took such drastic measures. Witnessing a side of her I never knew. My name is John. I just turned 50 last month. I may not be at an age where congratulations are expected, but my wife, Susan, prepared a feast, and our children surprised me with gifts to celebrate. Blessed with such a wonderful family, I truly am lucky. I'm grateful for everything, especially since Susan has been managing our home and raising our kids so well. We met at work and dated for 2 years before we got married. She wanted to keep working for a while, and did, but after finding out she was pregnant, she reluctantly quit her job because I wanted her to stay at home. The belief that the wife should manage the home and the husband should earn for the family might be old-fashioned, but I just can't seem to change that mindset. Susan seemed to understand and never complained. So, I thought she agreed with it. But that was just my assumption. I created an atmosphere where she couldn't voice her opinions, and maybe I just convinced her to agree with me. And I was under the illusion that our family was harmonious. After that, Susan gave birth to our son, Tyler, and 3 years later, our daughter, Lily, was born. In my career, I was given important responsibilities, leading a life that could be described as smooth sailing. I had subordinates at work who relied on me. I was competent in my job and enjoyed riding my motorcycle on weekends. I took pride in being a capable man. Once both kids started elementary school, Susan expressed her desire to work again during school hours. Considering she had wanted to continue working even after marriage, it's possible that the decade she spent as a stay-at-home mom, from Tyler's pregnancy to Lily's elementary school years, felt suffocating. However, back then, I couldn't understand her feelings. "You want to work. Isn't my salary enough? We'll need more money as the kids start taking lessons and such." "That's exactly why I want to work, so I can fully support what they want to do," she said with sparkling eyes. But back then, I failed to notice that spark in her eyes and ended up saying, "Susan doesn't need to worry about money. I learn enough, and you just need to support what the kids want to do." I couldn't bend my policy of providing for my wife and children. It never occurred to me that Susan wanted to work for reasons other than money. Perhaps understanding my stance or simply being dismayed by it, Susan swallowed her words about wanting to work and never mentioned it again. That didn't mean our marriage was falling apart. We would go out as a family on weekends and take trips during long holidays. I thought we were a happy family. Susan, as a homemaker, took perfect care of the house every day, looked after the kids well, prepared delicious meals, and waited for my return. The kids were also growing up to be obedient and nice, engaging in activities like baseball and piano. I'm truly grateful for everything, as it was all possible because my wife stayed at home and took good care of our children. My son graduated from college, had a child right away, got married at 23, and became a father. Lily is enjoying her college life at 20. I continued to focus on development work in the field, and my efforts were recognized when I was offered a transfer. I was asked to become the head of a new factory in a certain town and to get involved in training newcomers. At that time, I had just turned 50. Unable to give an immediate answer, I spent the whole day contemplating by myself. With Tyler having moved out and Lily being in college, the kids have grown up enough to live without their parents. Leaving behind our comfortable life for the countryside, I began to think that spending time there with my wife might actually be nice. Without consulting my wife, I decided to accept the transfer order. That day, after work, I went home and broached the subject of the transfer to my wife. For some reason, I was convinced that she would be thrilled with the idea and would definitely follow me. However, her response was not what I had imagined. "I can't go with you." "What did you say just now?" I asked again, doubting my own ears. "I don't want to sell this house. Plus, Lily is still living with us, so I can go with you." Since she had never expressed her own will so clearly before, I felt rejected and became dejected. Feeling deflated, I was sitting there when my wife continued. "Besides, my parents are not in good health. I can't just leave them behind." Faced with that, I had no choice but to agree. "Yeah, it would be worrisome to move with them not feeling well. All right, I'll go alone then. I'll come back on weekends." "That sounds good. I'll prepare a feast for you on weekends," she said, softening her previously tense face into a smile. Having always agreed with me before, her sudden opposition made me start to feel a slight distrust towards her. The following month, I went alone to the site of the new factory, marking my first solo assignment. Initially, as the construction was still underway, I worked from a makeshift prefab office, handling training and other operational tasks. During that time, I spent my weekends returning home to my waiting wife and daughter. As the factory got busier and completion neared, my trips home became less frequent, sometimes every 2 weeks or once a month. One day, I decided to return home unexpectedly, without informing my wife. "I'm home," I announced as I opened the front door, only to find the entrance cluttered with bags and cardboard boxes from deliveries, which was unusual for my tidy wife, and shoes scattered about. "Ah, are you back today?" she asked in a flustered manner, starting to tidy up the entrance. "I just thought I'd come home since work has slowed down a bit, but what's with this mess?" I inquired, concerned about her well-being. "Sorry, I caught a cold and have been bedridden," she said with a wry smile. "Are you okay? Don't push yourself too hard." "Thank you, I haven't been shopping, so how about we eat out today?" she suggested. We decided to go out for a meal. However, when she returned after changing, I was surprised to see her in a long skirt, a departure from her usual pants, and carrying an unfamiliar bag. "Wow, you've changed your style. It's been a while since I've seen you in a skirt." "Do you think so? This is a hand-me-down from Lily. She said she didn't need it anymore, so I decided to wear it," she replied nonchalantly. I wanted to believe her, but the distrust that had arisen when she refused to move with me resurfaced, and I began to doubt her. I thought about confirming with Lily but didn't want to involve her in our marital issues, so I remained silent. Even after returning to my assignment, the thought of my wife changing worried me, affecting my work. It was unimaginable that my wife, who always cared for and worried about me, could be paying attention to another man. I didn't want to imagine, let alone believe, that she could betray me. Yet, contrary to my feelings, I found myself imagining scenarios of what if. As I became more distracted, I was reprimanded more frequently. Realizing I couldn't fulfill my role as a manager, I decided to take some leave, return home without telling my wife, and confront her directly. I took a day off on Friday and planned to use the weekend to return home. Leaving early in the morning, I arrived near our house around 9 a.m. To avoid being noticed, I parked my car in a nearby lot and was about to head to our house when the front door opened. I reflexively hid behind something. My daughter left for school. "I'll see you later," I observed my wife waving goodbye to our daughter. Now that my daughter was gone, only my wife would be at home, so I hurried to follow her, only to see her also leaving the house, presumably to go somewhere. Spying on someone felt uncomfortable, but I followed my wife discreetly from a distance. After about a 15-minute walk from our house, she entered a certain place. It was a nursing home for the elderly. I wondered if her parents had been admitted there. I could have gone in and asked her, but I just couldn't muster the courage, fearing I might uncover some unwelcome truth. Even after waiting for 15, then 30 minutes, she didn't come out. So I went to a nearby cafe where I could watch the entrance of the nursing home and waited for her to emerge. How long did I wait in that cafe, ordering coffee after coffee and feeling the annoyed glances of the staff until I began to doze off, and finally, she came out. It was past 3 p.m. by the time she left. I hurriedly paid the bill and followed her. While following her, I felt like I was in some detective TV show, excited by the thrill of the chase, even though it felt out of place. However, she wasn't heading towards any supermarket or familiar area. Could it be that she was meeting someone? The excitement turned to a nervous anticipation. Could I confront her if I discovered a hidden side of her? I was shocked to realize how meek I had become in the situation, despite always priding myself on my confidence as a man. Could it have been a 20-minute walk from the nursing home? Just imagining what might await filled me with such anxiety it felt like my chest might burst. She then energetically entered a certain place. It was a driving school. She already had a driver's license, so what business did she have there? I discreetly moved to a spot where I could see inside and searched for her. There she was, about to put on a helmet. She then got on a motorcycle and started the engine. I rubbed my eyes in disbelief, but there was no mistake. It was my wife, learning to ride a motorcycle. She looked as happy as a child excited for a much-anticipated class. I felt deeply saddened that she had kept this a secret from me. Dejected, I walked back home. Upon opening the door, I found my daughter had already returned. "Dad, what's up? Did you take the day off work?" she asked, surprised to see my dispirited demeanor. "Yes, I took a day off. Hey, did you know that your mom was working?" "Ah, you should ask Mom directly. I have a part-time job now, so I'm heading out," she said, waving goodbye before leaving. I sat on the living room sofa, reminiscing about the sight of her working and taking motorcycle lessons. She always smiled at home, but the smile I saw today while she was working and learning to ride was different. It seemed to radiate from within. The traditional belief that men should provide and women should take care of the home had been my way of life, but I began to wonder if it had been too restrictive for her. I wanted to avoid burdening her with housework, childcare, and a job. But upon reflection, I realized that if I had taken on half the household duties, she could have pursued work without it being too much of a burden. Seeing her so vibrant and alive outside the home made me realize that what I had been doing might have been more of a hindrance than a help. Lost in these thoughts, I didn't even notice the living room darken as the day turned to night. Then, I heard the sound of the front door unlocking. In the dark room where no one was supposed to be, my wife noticed my presence and let out a scream like cry. Yikes! Whoa, what's wrong? I hadn't even realized I had startled my wife and approached her, speaking up. "Is that you? What are you doing in such a dark room?" She turned on the light and looked at me. Sorry, just lost in thought. Mind sitting here for a bit?" I encouraged my wife to sit on the sofa. "But I have to prepare dinner. Does it have to be now?" My wife hurriedly stored the groceries in the fridge and reached for her apron to start dinner. "Can you sit here instead of making dinner?" At my words, she stopped reaching for her apron and finally sat down opposite me. "Susan, I'm sorry." What for? What are you apologizing for?" "I had someone follow Susan today." "You followed me?" "Yes, walked from the morning to the nursing home, left there after 3 p.m., and then walked to the driving school." She looked a bit sheepish upon hearing my story, but soon laughed and said, "You caught me in everything." She said it in a childlike manner. I'm sorry for keeping it a secret, but why? That's because, well. As I hesitated to speak clearly, she spoke up for me. You thought something was fishy because I didn't want to move with you for your job transfer, right? I felt my face turning red as she spoke my exact thoughts. I just nodded silently. Seeing this, Susan burst into laughter. She seemed much more cheerful and louder than when we lived together, which made me wonder if her personality had changed. Noticing my surprise, she explained, I'm working at a nursing home now. There are many people hard of hearing or very cheerful, so I naturally ended up speaking like this. Why did you decide to work secretly, and why are you taking motorcycle lessons? I pressed on, wanting clear answers from her. She was silent for a moment but then looked me in the eyes and began to speak. You always told me not to worry about money and allow me to want to work. It wasn't just about money. I wanted more social connections. Staying at home every day, waiting for the kids, cooking meals, and then it all starts over again. I couldn't bear the thought of my life being just about being a housewife. I wanted to talk to people outside of our family. She shared her true feelings, looking away and then back at me. So when you mentioned the possibility of relocating for work, I thought it was my chance. I couldn't boldly go against your wishes of keeping me as a housewife while living together. That's why I said I wouldn't move with you and took up the nursing job I had been invited to by a friend. It's tiring, but it's refreshing. It makes me feel alive. And then, one thing led to another, and I thought I'd get my motorcycle license. You were interested in motorcycles. The first time I rode a motorcycle was with you. I always enjoyed the wind on my back when I rode with you. But then I thought, shouldn't I be more than just protected by you all the time? I want to be with you for a long time and enjoy your hobbies too. Every time you went on a bike ride, I wished I could share that joy with you. So that's how it was. I had it all wrong. Hearing her inner thoughts made me want to hug her tightly right there and then. A strange misunderstanding. Don't tell me you thought I was cheating. She laughed off my embarrassed demeanor, finding it funny. No, it's just that you seemed so lively since I've been gone, and seeing you in skirts, I got worried. That's absurd. I'm still the same, whether now or before. It's because you work so hard that I can pursue what I want now. I'm very grateful for that. So, once I get my bike license, there's something I want us to do together. Will you listen? Of course. With a beaming smile, she said, I want to go on a bike tour with you. I've always wanted to try touring. Bike touring. I want to ride a bike and visit various tourist spots. Hearing this, I made a decision. I returned to my transfer location and devoted myself to training my successor. Then, having nurtured talents capable of passing the baton to the next generation, I opted for early retirement from the company. By that time, I had reached the age of 55. Both my company and subordinates tried to persuade me to stay, but I had accomplished everything I could. Believing that passing the baton to new individuals is also the duty of those above, I decided to step down gracefully. After retiring, I returned home and instead of settling into a quiet life of retirement, I took over the household chores, cleaning, laundry, and cooking in place of my wife, who works in caregiving. I also ended up taking care of our eldest son's children. Since my daughter-in-law was pregnant with their third child, I offered to help by taking care of the grandchildren, hoping to be of some use. It seems he would have preferred to ask my wife, but I boasted, I've taken care of you guys too. Leave it to me with confidence, which led to me picking up the 5-year-old and 4-year-old grandkids from kindergarten almost daily and spending the afternoons playing with them. Grandpa, whose bike is this red one, and which one is yours? This one here is your grandma's. We're planning to go out on these bikes this weekend. Wow, that's cool. I want to ride a bike too. When you're a bit older, get your bike license, and then we can all go out together with Grandma and me. After dropping the grandkids off at home, preparing dinner and waiting for my wife to return from work became my daily routine. Now, I can fully understand her desire to stay connected with society. If I could, I'd tell my younger self, understand what your wife is feeling. Support her as she shines. That's why I keep telling my son, almost naggingly, consider your wife's feelings. It's your duty as a husband to support her. I might be the last person to say this, but it's something I learned from the most important person in my life. Now, what about making some pudding for the grandkids' snack tomorrow? Imagining their happy faces, I felt excited about the start of my second life.